You know what I think is arguably one of the worst feelings in the world? Hangover guilt. It's that moment in the morning when you wake up after a night of heavy drinking, and the moment you open your eyes, your mind is racing. You're like, oh my gosh, what happened last night? Where am I? I feel awful. Do I have to work today? Why did I drink so much? I told myself I wasn't going to. And of course, there's like the pounding anxiety or hangxiety happening in your chest, where your heart just feels like it's gonna beat out of your chest, and you're like, oh no, I did it again. Why did I do this to myself? I probably woke up with hangover guilt hundreds, if not 1,000 or more times over the course of a 10-year period where I really struggled in my relationship with alcohol. And nearly every time I drank, I set out to try to keep it under control, to try to not drink to a point where it would make me sick. But the majority of the time I would overdrink, and I would wake up feeling so frustrated with myself, tell myself I have to quit drinking, and the cycle would just go on and on and on. But honestly, the real challenge lies in the fact that it's not just as easy to, just stop drinking. You know, if you talk to someone who hasn't struggled with alcohol use disorder, they'll say, you just need to stop drinking then if you can't control it. But it's not that easy. And we know the reason for that now is because of how alcohol use disorder develops in the brain and impacts the brain. And once we get to that place where we are no longer in control of our drinking, that means it makes it really hard for us to quit drinking as well. And so that's why for me, I was stuck in this cycle for nearly 10 years, despite the fact that I really did want to get it under control. I just couldn't figure out how. But I finally escaped the dreadful cycle of hangover guilt, and I did it without having to quit drinking forever, without having to white knuckle it, and without having to set a bunch of rules around my drinking. That's because I used a treatment that's been around for nearly 30 years called the Sinclair method, that actually works neurologically to reverse alcohol use disorder inside of the brain, which is actually the root cause of the issue. And many treatment programs, in fact, the majority out there, don't even talk about what's going on in the brain when you have alcohol use disorder, and they just kind of encourage you to use willpower and discipline to quit drinking. But it's not that easy, and if you're anything like me, even though I was drinking a lot more than I wanted to, I didn't want to have to go sober for the rest of my life and say that I was never going to drink again. But through this treatment, it was incredible the changes that I saw in my level of control with drinking over time. I started it as someone who was drinking 1 to 2 bottles of wine most nights of the week, and got to a place after about a year on this treatment where I was literally drinking about 1 glass of wine once a month. If you're not familiar with the Sinclair method, learn more about it with the other videos I have or the link in my bio.